Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday Learning by Witham class. Today, we've got our guest speaker, David Prabhuji, who we know from previous occasions. So thank you, Prabhuji, for coming back. David Prabhuji will be giving us a class on Canto 8, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creation, Chapter 2, The Elephant Gajendra's Crisis. So over to you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Great. Thank you so much. Is the sound okay? Can everyone hear me?
Perfect, Prabhu.
Yeah? Terrific. Wonderful. How many have we got? There's 12 of us, yeah?
They'll soon be joining because the Karthik Sangha is just about to close. So
Okay, great. So I'm just looking up something here in Canto 2 that I wanted to reference. And I got a little bit sidetracked earlier as I was looking at the purport to text 30. It took me on a little bit of a tangent and I got a little bit absorbed in the discussion between Srila Ramananda Raya and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It was a very important tangent, so I was unable to finish finding what I was hoping to find. So now I'm like scrambling to find it. Okay. Yes, and there it is, 215 or 214. Okay, good. I've got it. Okay. Let's first offer our respectful obeisances and prayers to the Vaishnavas, spiritual master, to our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the combined form of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sijivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prishta Bhutale Shri Mate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatare Shatarine Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurate Vishe Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamuriyayet Shunvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Bhadrani Vidunoti Sahitsatam Nashtaprayashva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yutama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. Okay, so Canto 8, Chapter 2. And let's go straight for the introduction, shall we? Srila Prabhupada's summary. So, by way of summary, let's hear the summary given by Srila Prabhupada. The Elephant Gajendra's Crisis. The second, third, and fourth chapters of this canto describe how the Lord, during the reign of the fourth Manu, gave protection to the king of the elephants. As described in the second chapter, when the king of the elephants, along with his female elephants, was enjoying in the water, a crocodile suddenly attacked him, and the elephant surrendered to the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead for protection. In the midst of the ocean of milk, there is a very high and a beautiful mountain that has an altitude of 10,000 yojanas, or 80,000 miles. This mountain is known as Trikuta. In a valley of Trikuta, there is a nice garden named Rutumat, which was constructed by Varuna, and in that area there is a very nice lake. Once, the chief of the elephants, along with female elephants, went to enjoy bathing in that lake, and they disturbed the inhabitants of the water. Because of this, the chief crocodile in that water, who was very powerful, immediately attacked the elephant's leg. Thus there ensued a great fight between the elephant and the crocodile. This fight continued for 1,000 years. Neither the elephant nor the crocodile died, but since they were in the water, the elephant gradually became weak, whereas the power of the crocodile increased more and more. Thus the crocodile became more and more encouraged. Then the elephant, being helpless and seeing that there was no other way for his protection, sought shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so much of this chapter is setting the stage for the very significant event of Gajendra's surrender to Krishna. So in the build up to that, I wanted to just draw our attention to a few things, a few specific things that caught my interest, my specific interest. The first one, going to text 6. Yes. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, geologists, botanists, and other so-called scientists speculate about other planetary systems. This is a few lines down, yeah? Srila Prabhupada is talking about how there are different kinds of entities, not only human beings, right, in other planetary systems. So he says geologists, botanists, and other so-called so-called scientists speculate about other planetary systems. But being unable to estimate the varieties on other planets, they falsely imagine that all planets but this one are vacant, uninhabited, and full of dust. I don't know if anybody has seen this film, Ad Astra, but in this film, there's the premise that in the search for intelligent life or any form of life on another planet, the explorers, the so-called space explorers, discovered that although the cosmos and what could be photographed of the cosmos looked very intriguing and beautiful, it appeared to be still dead and lifeless. Right? This is the extent of their knowledge, which is based purely on speculation. Right? They imagine that all planets except this one are vacant, uninhabited, and full of dust. Although they cannot even estimate the varieties existing throughout the universe, they are very proud of their knowledge, and they are accepted as learned by persons of a similar caliber. As described in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.19, Shravid Varahostra Karai Samstuta Purusha Pashu. Materialistic leaders are praised by dogs, hogs, camels, and asses, and they themselves are also big animals. Right? This is a bit too much for some people. Okay, but Srila Prabhupada is a sadhu Vaidya, and he is not pulling any punches. Yeah. Those who are leaders in the shape of big animals because they have no religious inclination. Yeah, they're not concerned with the prime purpose of human life. They are praised by such animalistic followers, who the Bhagavatam describes to be like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Right, and then in this particular verse of the second canto, Srila Prabhupada describes the specific qualities of dogs, hogs, camels, and asses that disqualify them from the categorization of human. Okay, if anyone's interested, one can go there, 2.3.19. One should not be satisfied with the knowledge imparted by a big animal. Rather, one must take knowledge from a perfect person like Shukadeva Goswami. Mahajano yena gata sapanta. Our duty is to follow the instructions of the Mahajanas. Yes, so in Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many descriptions of things sorry, which may appear to be fantastic or stretching one's ability to accept or believe, right? In this particular case, we're looking at a mountain which is described to be um, how many yojanas high was it? 80,000, 8,000? I've already forgotten. Let's see. Yes, sorry. 10,000 yojanas, 80,000 miles. Okay? This mountain, Trikuta, 10,000 yojanas high, 80,000 miles, and of the same length and breadth, which means it's almost like a symmetrical pyramid. Not exactly a pyramid, but the point is that its base is 10,000 yojanas one way and another way, and it's also 10,000 yojanas high. This mountain exists in the Milk Ocean, but just because we have not experienced on this tiny Varsha, right, of such a large mountain doesn't mean that it can't exist elsewhere. So the frog in the well thinks that everything should be measured by his experience, right? How can he possibly understand the dimension of the ocean simply by the measurement of his tiny well? And thus, when he is told of the dimension of the vast ocean and tries to calculate according to his experience, puffing out his um, what's it called, bill, right? Puffing out his uh, his neck, then eventually he explodes because he can't possibly reach to the estimation of the ocean. In the same way, when it comes to things that are beyond our empiric senses, our ability to experiment on, we simply have no recourse but to accept the version of authority, in this case, Srila Shukadev Goswami, who is one of 12 Mahajanas, 12 authorities, who know things as they are. This is the way of accepting transcendental knowledge and of accepting Srimad Bhagavatam. I remember when I was living in the temple as a new devotee, there was another person who had joined as well on the Bhakti program, and he had come from a Buddhist background. And he actually lost faith after a short time because he was unable to accept certain statements of Bhagavatam, such as Shukadev Goswami remaining within the womb of his mother for a longer than customary period of time. This person was not able to accommodate such a suggestion, yeah, because he was so stuck and rigid in his own experience. It was not possible for him to imagine that anything else was conceivable or possible. Okay. So Srila Prabhupada is really putting down the so-called scientists here because of their false imagination. But that wouldn't be so bad, right? Just to imagine that something is one way or the other. That's bad enough. You're speculating without any factual recourse to the truth. But then to go and present your imagination as if it's, right, as if it is written in stone, as if it is law, that is another kind of cheating again. And that is sadly the disease of many materialistic scientists. They'll present their speculations as if it is gospel, yeah, and it becomes its own religion. Actually, there's a nice, well, I don't know how nice he is, but there's a theistic professor called Dr. James Tour, And he speaks about, well, he's a nanobiologist, and he's very much against the idea that life can be created in a laboratory, not because they haven't tried, but because they haven't actually achieved it, but they want to suggest that they have achieved it when, and if you listen to any of Dr. Tour's talks, then he really exposes the cheating and how far off they are from actually understanding how life comes about. The presence of certain elements, chemicals, atoms, compounds, whatever, is not sufficient to instigate life. And they have not achieved it, even though they like to suggest that they have. They have not. Okay. Where did we get to? All right. So the Mahajanas, their authority. So the Mahabharata says, Mahajano Yenagata Sapanta. That is how we can ascertain factual path of religion. Okay, that was text 6. And then the next one I wanted to go to was text 22. This was interesting to me because here we're told that by the mercy of this king of elephants, Gajendra, then many small animals, they lorded elsewhere in the forest, unafraid of him. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada says all the animals were practically controlled by this elephant. Yet, although they could move without fear because of respect, they did not stand before him. So, in the verse previous to this, it says that many other ferocious animals, right? Other elephants, tigers, other ferocious animals such as lions, rhinoceroses, great serpents, black and white sarabhas, they all fled in fear. The chamari deer also fled. So all of these animals fled because of Gajendra. But these smaller animals, they were not afraid. So the more ferocious animals, they fled in fear. But the smaller animals were not afraid, but they had sufficient respect not to, yeah, assert their presence in front of Gajendra. So this is interesting that when you have when there's a larger gap, let's say, in prowess, then the smaller animals, the less strong, maybe have much less need to be afraid because they can take shelter of the most powerful, especially if the most powerful is pious and is able and willing to offer protection. Whereas the competitor entities, right, they are more inclined to flee. I just thought this was very interesting. Right? The competitors who can't stand can't put up a fight, and they know it. They'll run away. Whereas those that are not, um, they know they're not in the same category. They know they can't put up a fight. They know they're not even trying. Right? They they will rather accept the shelter and protection. Yeah. So whenever if we come across an equal party, someone we feel in competition with, there might be envy might appear, right? We might find all kinds of excuses to um, make ourselves look very important or big in front of them or in front of the eyes of others who respect them. And we may not be able to stand the sight of them or their presence, and we have to go somewhere else, and we'll find all kinds of excuses why, we're not going to stay. You know? Whereas someone who doesn't see them as a competitor or there's nothing there to generate envy, they will more easily accept association of a greater personality and offer respect and have no need to exercise any envy or fear. Okay. And then going to the next thing that struck me was in text 26. Like a human being who lacks spiritual knowledge and is too attached to the members of his family. The elephant, being illusioned by the external energy of Krishna, had his wives and children bathe and drink the water. Indeed, he raised water from the lake with his trunk and sprayed it over them. He did not mind the hard labor involved in this endeavor. So it just shows you that whenever there is attachment, love, intense affection, or possession, then we will go to sometimes any lengths of hard labor, yeah, for the sake of our attachment. So this has two applications. It has a material application, which is useless, of course. Yeah. The comparison here is that of a human being who lacks spiritual knowledge and is therefore too attached to family members. And because of that attachment, one is willing to work very hard, like a beast of burden, for very little, just on account of temporary illusory affection and attachment. It's foolish because one is destined to lose the relationship, and all of one's hard labor is ultimately for nothing. However, if one has spiritual knowledge, one can apply the same level of hard work and labor for Krishna's satisfaction, which may also include working hard for the benefit of one's family members, right? Assuming they are devotees and one is able to support and encourage and inspire them in their spiritual lives. Mm. But ultimately, one's hard work is for the pleasure of Krishna, offering one's endeavors and the results of one's work for Krishna's satisfaction, for Krishna's service. Mm. But the principle of I don't mind working hard, yeah, because of my attachment that is there. Just the question is the attachment material or is it spiritual? Whereas if there's no attachment, if there's no interest, if there's no relationship, no connection, then one is not prepared to struggle, not prepared to work. But on the basis of attachment and relationship, we call it a labor of love. Labor of love. So Krishna consciousness also should be a labor of love. And that's what enhances its quality, its value, is that we are prepared to undertake trouble in our devotional service, right? And that in Krishna. And if it was easy and the results were easy, then would it have as much value in the Lord's eyes? Certainly not. And maybe also, we would also feel that it was too easy or too cheap. Mm. But when you have to struggle for something, then its value increases. Okay. And the next one is very important. This is text 30. This is a very profound purport. And it deserves that we read it. So let's read it. So we know that Gajendra has come into the water, yeah, in the style of a king. And in doing so, he has upset some of the inhabitants there, not the least of which was this very powerful crocodile, who was actually a Gandharva king who had been cursed. Yeah, his name was Huhu. He had been cursed, and as a result of this episode, he also was delivered ultimately by the Lord. But when Gajendra entered the water, then this crocodile, out of envy, attacked him. Thereafter, because of being pulled into the water and fighting for many long years, the elephant became diminished in his mental, physical, and sensual strength. The crocodile, on the contrary, being an animal of the water, increased in enthusiasm, physical strength, and sensual power. Okay, purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the fighting between the elephant and the crocodile, the difference was that although the elephant was extremely powerful, he was in a foreign place in the water. During 1,000 years of fighting, he could not get any food, and under the circumstances, his bodily strength diminished. And because his bodily strength diminished, his mind also became weak, and his senses less powerful. Hmm. This is instructive also, right? Um, as far as necessary, we want to maintain our health. Yeah. And therefore, regulative life, right? Regulating our eating, sleeping, mating, and defending is very important in order to preserve and, yeah, to preserve our bodily strength. And this also helps, it supports the mind and the senses. I'm into exercise, right? That's part of my nature and my background. And so I like to do that fairly regularly. I try not to overdo it, but I also take advantage of that time when I'm exercising to listen to Srila Prabhupada's lecture or conversation. It's it's a win-win for me. And after that exercise, I feel I just feel more at it, more enlivened, stronger in mind, happier. You know, exercise scientists and whatnot, they'll point to the release of certain chemicals or hormones in the body that make you feel good. You know, they have their different ways of understanding things, but and I'm sure there's a degree of truth there. Certainly, they won't have the whole picture, but it helps, right? Srila Prabhupada was told by one doctor that, Swamiji, you pray too much. You need to do some exercise. And then Srila Prabhupada decided that he would go for a morning walk regularly every day. Okay. The crocodile, however, being an animal of the water, had no difficulties. Right? He was in his element. He was getting food and was therefore getting mental strength and sensual encouragement. Thus, while the elephant became reduced in strength, the crocodile became more and more powerful. Mm. Now, from this, we may take the lesson that in our fight with Maya, we should not be in a position in which our strength, enthusiasm, and senses will be unable to fight vigorously. Our Krishna consciousness movement has actually declared war against the illusory energy, in which all the living entities are rotting in a false understanding of civilization. So, this is the Maya. The Maya means that we don't understand what this world is, and therefore our civilization is based on ignorance. And we think that the world around us and the objects of our senses are meant for our personal exploitation. This is Maya. And our Krishna consciousness movement is declaring war on this Maya. And we're saying that everything here comes from Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. Everything is meant for Krishna's satisfaction, and everything should be engaged for Krishna's pleasure. That is our declaration of war. And in order to fight this war, right, we should be able, we should have strength, enthusiasm, and fit senses. We don't want to be swept away and overcome by the waves of this material illusory energy. The soldiers in this Krishna consciousness movement must always possess physical strength, enthusiasm, and sensual power. Right? Why we should be weak physically? Right? We need physical strength, right? Especially to go out in Harinam in the good old days. Right? They were out for hours and hours. It requires physical strength. Of course, by performing that practice, one also becomes strong physically. I remember Tribhuvanath Prabhu saying to me, I was a young devotee, and I was coming from a heavy background of sport, and maybe I was only 19 or 20 years old, and I met Tribhuvanath Prabhu in the shower room at Bhaktivedanta Manor, and he was getting shaved up by another brahmachari who introduced me to him. And Tribhuvanath said to me, and this other brahmachari said, "No, this is David. He's like an athlete. He's very strong." And Tribhuvanath turned and he looked at me and says, "Oh, you're strong, are you?" And then he said to me, he kind of with a glint in his eye, he said to me, "Harinam will make you strong." He said, "Harinam will make you strong." So yeah, Harinam will make you strong, especially if you do it a lot. And in order to perform Harinam, then we want to be in good health. Okay. So regular and proper eating and sleeping. Not too little, not too much. Okay. So the soldiers in this Krishna consciousness movement must always possess physical strength, enthusiasm, and sensual power. To keep themselves fit, they must therefore place themselves in a normal condition of life. Okay. What constitutes a normal condition will not be the same for everyone, and therefore there are divisions of varnashrama, right? Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. These are the specific normal conditions. Yes, these are all normal conditions. But one man's food may be another man's poison. So we have to understand from these options what is my normal condition. Yes. And something that I'm getting into recently is this topic, science of career dharma. And in the science of career dharma, then we can understand that not everyone has the same temperament of work. People have different spirits, different approaches, and different attitudes to occupation. And if a person of a particular temperament is working in a field that requires a very different temperament, then they will be dissatisfied, they may suffer, and they may also make those around them suffer because they're not in the proper uh, atmosphere, not in the proper element. So we have to understand what kind of machine it is that Krishna has bestowed upon me. What kind of body-mind machine am I working with here? What is my temperament? What is my disposition? What is my working spirit? And therefore, I should be in an occupation, especially, essentially, if I'm a grihastha, I must be in an occupation that engages that temperament properly. Okay. Especially in this age, Kali Yuga, it is advised that no one takes sannyasa. Right, and then Srila Prabhupada quotes from CC Adi 17164. This verse is taken from the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. Ashvamedham Gavalambham Sannyasam Pala Paitakam Devarena Sutotpatim Kalau Pancha Vivar Jayet. I think these are 5 things that are forbidden in the age of Kali. Looking at the Sanskrit, I'm not able to right now translate all of them. Certainly Ashvamedha Yagyas. Taking the Yes, okay, we'll not get into that. But sannyasi is what Srila Prabhupada is focusing on, okay? From this verse, right, from this we can understand that in this age, the sannyas ashrama is forbidden because people are not strong. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed us an example in taking sannyas at the age of 24 years, but even Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya advised Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be extremely careful because he had taken sannyas at an early age. For preaching, we give young boys sannyas, but actually it is being experienced that they are not fit for sannyasa. Right? Srila Prabhupada called this battlefield commission. Battlefield commission. An emergency for the sake of spreading this Krishna consciousness movement, which very much was an emergency. Srila Prabhupada did not know how much time he had left with us, of course. I mean, even in the early stages of his preaching in America, he said, I'm an old man, I can leave at any time. You boys and girls, you're young. To some extent, you've understood the essence of this Krishna consciousness movement. Now push it on. Yeah. So, for the sake of spreading Krishna consciousness, and in the CC and another purport, he mentions that it is necessary to create sannyasis for this purpose, regardless of whatever criticism or whatever opinions others express about it. Srila Prabhupada found it necessary. And he says here, actually, it is being experienced that they're not fit for sannyas, right? Battlefield commission. He said elsewhere that it's understood that, right, we're at war, and some of you may go down. You may fall down from your position of sannyas as a result of this war with Maya. But still, it's glorious in the service of Lord Chaitanya. He says there is no harm, however, if one thinks that he is unfit for sannyas. If he is very much agitated sexually, he should go to the ashram where sex is allowed, namely the Grihastha ashrama. That one has been found to be very weak in one place does not mean that he should stop fighting the crocodile of Maya, right? So if your ability to fight Maya is hampered in the arena of the sannyas status of life, renounced order of life, then what's the use of being in that ashram, right? If you find yourself able to execute Krishna consciousness and focus the mind on the Lord's service, right, while being in the company of wife and children, then that is a better arena for you. Then, with your wife and children, prosecute Krishna consciousness. One should take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, as we shall see Gajendra do, and at the same time, one can be a grihastha if he is satisfied with sexual indulgence. There is no need to give up the fight, right? Because what's the point in, okay, it's difficult, grapes are sour, and then what, you go away and get fully surrendered to materialistic activities and sinful life and just pursuing sense gratification in all of its forms and forget about the fact that everything is everything is the property of Krishna, and you're happy when you engage in Krishna's service, beginning with hearing and chanting about him. If you give up the whole thing, then that's completely useless. Don't give up the fight. Just situate yourself in properly so that you're able to prosecute the fight. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore recommended stane stita shruti-gitam tanavang manobhi. One may stay in whichever ashrama is suitable for him. It is not essential that one take sannyasa. If one is sexually agitated, he can enter the Grihastha ashrama. But one must continue fighting. For one who is not in a transcendental position, to take sannyasa artificially is not a very great credit. Right? So artificial sannyas without sufficient purification, without being transcendentally situated, there's no great credit. Srila Prabhupada also says that and I think he specifically said to a Grihastha devotee that practically you're the same as a sannyasi because, right, your entire life is dedicated for the service of the Lord. And that is the meaning of sannyas, no more engagement in material activity, right? Full-on spiritual activity. So artificially adopting the dress has no value unless one is actually engaged in absorbed spiritual activity. If sannyas is not suitable, one may enter the Grihastha ashrama and fight Maya with great strength. But one should not give up the fighting and go away. Okay. So the verse that he mentions in this particular purport is, let me just pull it up here, is spoken by Lord Brahma. I think this is when the demigods are offering prayers to Lord Krishna in the womb of Devaki. And Lord Brahma speaks this verse. And this verse is again recited by Srila Ramananda Raya when he is talking with the Lord. Mahaprabhu asks him about the object of worship and the process and the ultimate goal of life. And Ramananda Roy mentions various things regarding varnashram and one's duties within the material world, and ultimately even giving up these duties. And Mahaprabhu keeps saying, these are all external, these are all external. Tell me more. What's the essence? And finally, when he mentions this verse, then Mahaprabhu says, all right, that can be accepted. Yes, okay, now go further. And then Ramananda Roy goes further and says that the ultimate purpose of life is ecstatic love for the Supreme Lord. That is the highest achievement. But just preliminarily to that, he mentions this verse, which Mahaprabhu accepted as good. And yes, we can accept that as not being just external, but essential. And what is that verse? Bhagavatam 10:14-3. Gyane prayasam namanta eva jivanti san mukaritam bhavadiyavartam sthanestita shutikitam tanuvanganobhir. Yai prayasho jita jitopya sitaistri lokyam. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, okay, so in your own element, yeah, if it's in the water, stay in the water. If it's on the land, if it's in this particular ashram, let it be that ashram. If it's this particular type of occupation according to your temperament and nature, let it be that. But while remaining in your established social position, you have to throw away the process of speculative knowledge. Don't try to speculate on the truth. And with your body, your words, and your mind, offer all respects to descriptions of the Lord's personality and activities. Dedicating your life to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally, Lord, and by your devotees. Okay, so let's unpack this just somewhat. So, even though remaining in your element, your proper position, social position, whether it be as a brahmachari, a grihastha, a sannyasi, or a vanaprastha, well, whether you are working in the field of ideas, government, resources, or artistry, yeah, and you have the dharmic expertise in any of those fields, regardless of your position, simply throw away the process of speculative knowledge, yeah, and offer all respects to descriptions of the Lord's personality and activities. How? With your body, your words, and your mind. Okay? And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, yeah, and also here actually in this purport to 10:14:3, it's explained how one does that. We don't have time really to get into that, but if you want to look at it later, 10:14:3. So we're offering all respect with our body, words, and minds to these descriptions, these narrations of the Lord and his activities, which are vibrated by Krishna personally and by his pure devotees. All right? So this is the process. Glorify, respect, honor, worship these descriptions, vibrated by Krishna's pure devotees. That means Srimad Bhagavatam, that means Bhagavad Gita. And what is the result? The result will be that certainly such persons will conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds. This is how we fight Maya. We make Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita our life and soul. This is how we become strong. Okay. Moving forward. I thought there wasn't too much for me to do in this chapter, but the nature of Srimad Bhagavatam is that you cannot capture him, and he is always expanding in the most wonderful way. Material knowledge also expands, but it's like totally depressing, infuriating, and bewildering. You try to get to the bottom of something, and it just becomes, yes, agitating and infuriating. Whereas spiritual knowledge becomes even more enlivening, enlightening, and blissful. And that expansion becomes even more relishable. Okay. So that was text 30, right? And this is a very profound message that Gajendra was weakened because he wasn't situated in his proper element. And he wasn't therefore able to regenerate his strength. He wasn't able to maintain the fight because he was out of his element. And the import for us, of course, is that if we want to fight this war against illusion, and if we want to become sincere devotees of Krishna, then we have to be situated properly in such a way that we are encouraged and empowered and strengthened to engage in Krishna consciousness. Right? Mold your life in such a way that all day, every day, you're able to think of Krishna. Okay. I'll try to summarize or quickly get through the next three verses so that we have some time for maybe some reflection and question. Is that okay? All right. Text 31. Okay. So when the king of the elephants saw that he was under the clutches of the crocodile by the will of providence, and being embodied and circumstantially helpless, could not save himself from danger, he was extremely afraid of being killed. He consequently thought for a long time and finally reached the following decision. So in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada says that the best way to surrender to the Lord is by one's intelligence, and one can consider the matter as far as one can carry the intelligence, right? But ultimately, one has to come to the point of surrender. So the whole value of one's intelligence is that it will bring us to the point of, hey, I really have to surrender to Krishna, and no other course of action is sufficient. So when does this come about? Sadly for us, this usually comes about when we are distraught and bewildered. Okay, so when did Arjuna surrender to Krishna? It was when he couldn't solve it for himself. He's completely bewildered, completely perplexed. Prabhupada says this material nature is a source of perplexity for everyone. And who needs a spiritual master? Only the man who is perplexed, the man or the woman who is perplexed. No one else needs a spiritual master because they think that they're very happy here. And Prabhupada mentions in this purport, or is it the next one, that that is foolishness to think that one is happy here because there is danger at every step. Param param, yadvipadam. Danger at every step. Okay. And Srila Prabhupada in this purport to text 31 mentions that there are four kinds of persons, Sukritinas, who surrender to Krishna when they're in trouble. Well, two of them specifically need something. One of them is precisely in trouble. That's why he surrenders. Another one wants something. Another one, again, is inquisitive. And the Jnani, of course, has some knowledge of the Lord and wants to perfect that knowledge. So these pious people, these Sukritinas, they actually, when they, or rather, because they require something, they go to the Lord to meet that requirement. Whereas the Dushkritinas, they will never surrender to Krishna under the same circumstances. If Gajendra, if you were to imagine that such a a kingly elephant was demonic in mentality, he would never have um, remembered the Lord or thought about surrendering to the Lord. But because he had a background of devotion, right, and he remembered the service and the mantras of his previous life as a king, right, named Indrajumna. Therefore, by Krishna's grace, he was able to remember those activities. And thus, as a result of that purified consciousness, he could take shelter of Krishna. This is the value of taking up the process of devotional service. Prabhupada says that even at the time of death, even if you forget the Lord, he will not forget you because of your absorption in Krishna consciousness throughout your life. Mm. So Srila Prabhupada says here that he intelligently arrived at the correct decision. And such a decision is not reached by a sinful man. Yeah. Therefore, in the 7th chapter of the Gita, the Lord says, Yesham Tvantagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandva mohanirmukta bhajante mam durdivrata. That those who have come to the end of their sinful lives, and have acted piously in this life and in previous lives, they are able to worship the Lord with firm determination, firm resolution, durdivrata, because they have this momentum, strength of momentum, of piety. Yeah. Whereas one who is burdened by the weight of sinful existence, they're not able to reach that decision to surrender to Krishna. Okay. Okay, let's move on to text 32. And this is very instructive. Gajendra realized that my friends and relatives, they can't help me. Right? What to speak of my wives, they're simply crying for my piteous condition. None of them can do anything for me. It is by the will of providence, by destiny, that I am in this situation. And therefore I will seek the shelter of the Lord, who is the controller of destiny, the master of providence. And he is the shelter of everyone, even great personalities. So there's danger at every step here. Prabhupada says that a fool thinks that he's happy. Actually, he says there's two kinds of people who are happy in this world. The Paramahamsa, the pure transcendentalist, and the fool. Everyone else is everyone else is experiencing some degree of misery and realizing it. A fool actually believes that this is a great place and he's perfectly fine here. Danger at every step, at any moment. Something can happen to upset your peace and tranquility and happiness. And not only that, it can even upend you from all that you have and all that you know. Okay. And the Lord is the only person who can save us from such danger. There's also a nice verse in in the beginning of the second canto. I'll just quickly refer to that. I think, this is Shukadev Goswami speaking. Anyway, 214. Persons devoid of Atma Tattva, right, who they have no knowledge of the soul. They do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers like the body, children, and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable destruction. So, although death is prevalent in this world and we are confronted with it regularly, we don't think of our own inevitable destruction. And we are because of being too attached to the fallible soldiers, like the body, the children, and the wife. This is a very wonderful purport. I also recommend reading it. 214. another interesting point in this verse, text 32, that Srila Prabhupada makes. He says that, we can try in so many ways to counteract the dangers of the material world. But unless the Lord sanctions our attempt, then it's not possible to be happy. Our attempts for happiness will fail. So devotee means that they will accept happiness only from Krishna. That's devotee. Their happiness must be from Krishna and for Krishna and with Krishna. Those who try to be happy without taking shelter of the Lord are mutas, rascals, as Krishna himself proclaims. Okay, so Gajendra, as a result of good fortune and previous bhakti, right, because Krishna says, I carry what you lack, I preserve what you have. So as a result of the Lord's grace, then Gajendra is able to take shelter of the Lord in this position. After he has struggled for 1,000 years, he tried by his own strength to be released and relieved and to get out of the water. But he could not. He fought very hard. Draupadi also tried very hard to protect herself. Yeah, when Dushasana was attempting to disrobe her, she fought very hard. But when she realized that this is a losing battle, I'm not going to win here. Yeah, then she surrendered and cried out for Govinda. So that often is the case that sadly we will only surrender, we will only put complete trust in Krishna when we've utterly failed to resolve it for ourselves. Krishna did not instruct Arjuna until Arjuna admitted defeat and said, I'm done here. I can't solve this. Yeah? Only you can solve it for me. And then at that point Krishna agreed, all right, I'll tell you what you have to do. So who needs a guru? Only the person who is in utter perplexity regarding their condition, their situation. Otherwise, you don't need a guru. All right, finally, text 33. Let's just read the verse. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is certainly not known to everyone, but he is very powerful and influential. Therefore, although the serpent of eternal time, which is fearful in force, endlessly chases everyone, ready to swallow him, if one who fears this serpent seeks shelter of the Lord gives him protection. For even death runs away in fear of the Lord. Right? The holy name is described as being feared by fear personified. Fear personified is afraid of Krishna's holy name. Yes? And death does not overcome a devotee who has surrendered their time to narrations of the Lord. I think it is Shaunaka Rishi who states that to Sutta Goswami. He says, we'll invite Yamaraj to come here and hear these narrations. We have no fear of Yamaraj. We have no fear of death. Right? For those who are not inclined to hear the glories of the Lord, their life is swallowed up with each rising and setting of the sun. But for us who have come here to engage in this sacrifice of hearing about Krishna, death cannot approach us. Time cannot diminish our life because we are engaged in that which is eternal. Yeah, and this purport Srila Prabhupada mentions that he mentions that one may argue, does the devotee not die? But the answer is that a devotee certainly must give up his body, for the body is material. The difference, however, is that for one who surrenders to Krishna fully and who is protected by Krishna, the present body is his last. He will not again receive a material body to be subjected to death. So how does he not die? He does not die because he gets eternal life. He doesn't have to come back and again die. Yeah. The devotee's death is actually liberation. Right? It's described that Narada Muni received his transcendental identity and form upon quitting the body, just as uh, the thunderclap and the lightning occur simultaneously. So he quit his material body and he received his transcendental form. For one who's very serious about Krishna consciousness and develops and perfects Krishna consciousness before quitting this body, then that is naturally there. Jivan Mukta. Jivan Mukta. Liberated even while apparently within this material world. So this is interesting. Towards the end of this purport, Prabhupada says, everyone should fear death because everyone is caught by the crocodile of eternal time and may die at any moment. We generally don't live like this. Certainly people who know nothing of Krishna, they have no idea that they're in the grip of eternal time and that any moment they can be upended. So one who is seeking Krishna's shelter, which is the best course, right? They can be saved from the struggle for existence in this material world. So if we're taking shelter of Krishna, if that's where we're going, if that's where our mind runs, not just in calamity, not just in perplexity, but as a regular daily function, realizing that I'm already in the grip of eternal time, yeah, then I'm understanding the goal of life. And this is the ultimate goal of life, to take shelter of the Lord. And that's why it's very important not to give up the fight, even though we may at times be disheartened. This is the only fight. And if we give up this fight, then it's not that giving up the fight will make living any easier. Yeah, rather the defeat will be excruciating. So one must keep up the fight in whatever way one can. Okay, I've gone 5 minutes over. Dharmendra Prabhu, I'll let you decide what happens next.
Okay, thank you very much, Prabhu. You've really unpacked this chapter so beautifully. When we were reading through it, I was wondering how you were going to give this class. So thank you so much. It's really wonderful. If anyone has any questions, please raise your hands. I've got a couple actually, and I've got one that's a bit controversial as well. But you're talking about competitiveness, and so I was sort of thinking, how do we realize we're being competitive as part of our nature, which is the first part, and how do we seek to let go of our competitiveness in what we do?
So everything can be engaged in the Lord's service, apart from envy, as I understand. And I also understand Srila Prabhupada told a devotee once that don't mistake your appreciation for another's service to be envy. This competitiveness is there in the spiritual world, but that competitiveness is directed towards Krishna's satisfaction, his pleasure. So I have my service, and maybe someone has another service or a similar service even, and maybe there is some competition, who can satisfy the Lord more. That is not envy. That is impetus to improve my service, right? To make my service better. And what is that impetus? That impetus is the appreciation of someone else's love for Krishna. I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember the exact, the essence of your question. Can you give it to me?
What I was trying to suggest is that because we're being competitive, how do we actually realize that we're being competitive and therefore walk away, as you were saying, from that the presence basically uh, and how do we seek to improve upon to let go of our competitive nature in the sense of not from the
Yeah,
perspective
sure,
of
sure.
devotional service,
Yes, yes,
but
yes.
just generally.
Right, right. If we find ourselves um, jostling or posturing to be more, to be better, to outdo, to shine, right?
Yeah,
First, we want to shine ahead of somebody else. That would be envy. And the first thing is to acknowledge it in ourselves that why am I disturbed by someone else's presence or activity? What's going on in me? Why is that? What is it exactly that they're doing? Is it something that they're doing wrong? Is it the quality of what they're? What is it? Generally, what I'm able to notice outside is something that is either in me already, still, or something I've processed and dealt with. If I have no attachment to it, it doesn't bother me, but I notice it. Generally, that means that um, it's not a problem for me. But if it agitates me, if it disturbs me, if it's like a pinprick, then generally that's some anartha that I haven't, um, that isn't gone.
yeah.
So introspection, and then recognizing that there's room for everybody in devotional service, and there's enough love for everybody. And what is it that I'm seeking? Is it name? Is it fame? Is it recognition? Right? But all of these things, isn't it Srila Raghunath Das Goswami describes these as something quite foul? Um, I don't know if I have the exact phrase correct, but something along the lines of, anyway, something very obnoxious, right? That's the nature of the desire for fame, pratishta, profit, adoration, distinction. So we may be in competition because we want profit, adoration, distinction. Somebody else appears to be getting it. And I have a problem with that because, hey, I should get it. I deserve it, right? Um, all of my qualities merit that profit, adoration, and distinction. And I'm not getting it, but this person is. So I'm feeling very much in competition with them. So first of all, recognize that this is an anartha, and then second of all, recognize that the Lord is everybody's friend. And if someone's getting something, it's because Krishna wants it. It's because that other person deserves it. Yeah. Either as a result of their previous austerity, right? Their tapasya. They've suffered for this. Now they're being rewarded. Or Krishna is giving it to them because he wants it. So either way, I shouldn't have a problem with that. They suffered for it. They deserve it. They're getting it. Good for them. Or Krishna wants it. I'm Krishna's devotee. His satisfaction is everything. So again, I shouldn't have a problem with it. If the Lord's happy, I'm happy. Yeah. And if I'm still pained because I'm not getting recognition, profit, adoration, and distinction, then I should take a long, hard look at myself and just tell myself to wise up, catch myself on, and tolerate it. Oh yes, this person is being glorified and extolled, and you're not, right? And that's fine. That's good. That's cool. Be happy. Yeah, you deserve this. And even if it's on the negative side, I'm being criticized and berated and whatnot, then if someone is Brahminically minded, they should accept that as nectar. Nectar, purification. Everyone's harassing me, criticizing me. Great, great. I'm being purified. You guys are taking all of my bad qualities by your criticism, and I'm getting your good qualities. So go for it. I have to be relieved of all of this because the danger is that if I'm regularly flattered and bolstered, then maybe I'll believe in my own hype. So these are some of the ways in which to deal with that. Is that okay?
That's perfect. Honestly, that's brilliant. Okay, we've got Sadevi Mataji who wants to ask a question. Sadevi Mataji, would you like to ask a question?
Hare Krishna, and thank you very much for tonight.
Hare Krishna.
We talk about our how to say whatever we are in our nature, we should act on it, but do it in the form of doing in devotion to Lord Krishna.
Yeah.
But there is something I wonder. Arjuna, he didn't want to fight, but then Lord Krishna says to him, "You're a Kshatriya, you have to do it. It's
Well,
in your nature."
not because he's a Kshatriya.
Yes.
That's not the reason. And
What
that's
is
just that's coincidental. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted. Let you finish.
No, he told Arjuna that you are a Kshatriya, you have to do it, you have to fight.
Okay. Early on,
and
he told him that. Yeah.
try to do what you have to do because it's in your nature. So
Yeah.
what I get of that is everyone have a specific nature in themselves. And Arjuna, for instance, he didn't want to fight. He wanted to be a good man and family, be kind to the family, to everyone, even though that they were not very good to him and his family. Still, he didn't want to fight. But Krishna says, "You are Kshatriya, you have to do it." But in the same time, when he says to him, "It's in your nature, you have to do it," he somehow still he died very strangely. And when it was asked why did he die that way, it was because he was.
Who died?
When Arjuna afterwards, when they one by one, when they were in their way to, how to say, to forest.
When they were going north.
Yes, but when they were already king and afterwards they were finished with everything and they want to, one by one, they died.
Okay.
I think that's the story about the dog that's following them.
Yes,
and then
yes.
And
it was asked, why did Arjuna died in a special way, and when was asked why did he needed to die that way, it mentioned that because he was too proud. Okay. That's why. So, I mean,
does the Mahabharata say that? I don't remember that specific section of the Mahabharata, but I'll take your word for it.
It was Bhima asking all the time, why did he needed to die this way? Why did he? Anyway, it was mentioned that because he was too proud.
Okay.
And what I don't understand is every person, we are all we born with a special personality or special nature, and it says that we should act in the nature that we are born to. For instance, my nature is to be a mother. You know what I mean? So, and I have to act as a mother. I have to take care of my children. Even now, even they are adult, still I can be a mother for them when they need help from me. Still, I can be there for them. You know what I mean? Because it's my nature. I can't say no. I'm not going to help you because it's my nature not to do that. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
So if we do that, and still it's wrong to be in the how to fight the nature that is in me. I am programmed with that nature. How can I say no? And now I'm going to be another way.
Why do you think you have to be another way?
Because if you want, for instance, if I want to really concentrate only on my spiritual path and only on my devotional service and so on and so on, not everyone have understanding for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I
so
can't, for instance, my children, they are not devotee,
Hmm.
and I can't force them because they are adults. I can't force them. I can talk to them, but they are not going to be devotee. So I have to say, you know what, I can't have relationship with you. I must only have relationship with the devotees. I must only have contact with that, to be in that side of way, not with non-devotee. My children are not non-devotee.
Okay.
So what to do with that?
What to do with it?
Fight with that nature of my
Does it well? Does it detract from your practice of Krishna consciousness? Are they an obstacle?
No, they are not.
Okay.
No, absolutely not.
Then what's the problem?
So I can have relationship with them, for instance.
Are they is the association with them causing you to think about eating meat or performing any other sinful activity?
No,
Okay. Is the
and they
association with them
respect me
causing
that
you
I
to
don't
is
eat.
the association with them causing you to lose interest or taste in chanting Hare Krishna?
No, not any of that. But when I'm sitting with them, for instance, I want to talk about Krishna consciousness, but they bring up other subjects
Okay.
between themselves. You know, I have 6 children, so when I meet them, then all of them are there,
Yeah.
and they talk about something else. They don't. They are not very keen
Sure.
about to talk about
course.
devotional things.
Yeah, so many subject matters for hearing in human society. Yes, Bhagavatam says like that. So in that scenario where you're forced to listen to that vibration, yeah, you can chime in if you want, or you can excuse yourself. I've got something to do, or I need to go to the bathroom, or I've got an email to send, or whatever. Um, at the end of the day, we have these bodily relations, and it would be a little bit weird if we kind of got up and said, you know, you're not my kids. Yeah, you're just bags of bones. We have no ultimate relationship. This is all an illusion, and um, I'm gone, or I'll never see you again, or something like that. They would be a little bit miffed by that, and there would be no even though, from an objective point of view, there may be some truth expressed there, in the sense that yes, I'm not my body, and ultimately I have no relationship with anybody connected to this body that I'm sitting in. The fact of the matter is that I have an opportunity to perhaps, give some spiritual impetus to these souls, right? In other words, if they're not a problem in the execution of my spiritual life, if they're not forcing me or causing me to forget Krishna or engaging me in sinful activities, then there's no need to do anything drastic. The relationship is there. The bodily relationships exist, and all that's required is that I see them as parts of Krishna, whether they know it or not. Yeah, they are parts and parcels of Krishna. They're forgetful of Krishna right now, and as a result, they have no interest or inclination in his service, so they'll talk about anything and everything else. Yeah, but you have an opportunity, and you have an opportunity to preach to them in whatever subtle or gentle way, yeah, is possible. And if you're attached, if you are attached, yeah, to them, then you must do that. It's your attachment. And therefore, you must engage your attachment in Krishna's service. So you have to think with the Lord, with Gornitai, how can I help them? How can I give them something? Huh? Prasadam, holy name, Krishna Kata. How can I? They don't want to take it because, right, they're adults. They think they have minds of their own. But somehow or other, how can I inspire them to take to this path? And pray for them. you're engaging your attachment in Krishna's service. And if there's no attachment at all there, then well, I mean, that's hypothetical.
Even that I have difficulty to understand. What does that mean, attachment? What is attachment? Attachment is, for instance, I have learned that when in Iran, for instance, I was born in Iran. In Iran, for instance, both girl and boy, they are not going to move from the home before they are married. So they could be 40 years old and still live with their parents.
Okay.
The parents will not let go. They don't get to go even to live by themselves. So
Okay.
I thought this is attachment. This is not to let go, attachment, too much attachment. Well, I was not like that. I when they decided, okay, now mom, I'm studying in the university, I'm moving. Okay,
Okay.
they choose to move, and I was okay with that.
You're
You know
fine
what I
with
mean?
that. Yeah,
So
yeah.
what is that? Is it
Good.
not that I'm not attached?
You know, you can love someone and still be happy that they're standing on their own 2 feet and living in a separate building. Yeah,
Exactly,
you can wish them well. You can have affection for them, right?
exactly,
But it doesn't mean you need them to be with you 24 hours a day and
exactly,
monitor all their movements, you know, and make sure that
exactly.
they're brushing their teeth, you know, twice. And yeah, that might be a little excessive. That's you know, that's when love crosses over, love and well wishing and affection crosses over into possession, you know, control. I mean, it's an intricate subject
But
matter, right?
also
When someone
attachment, right?
when people love each other, there is a sense of possession, of course. But the thing is that you've got to let people, um, you got to give people their space. You've got to give them their individual existence. Krishna does that. He lets us, you know, get up to whatever nonsense. Yeah, because we insist. He's not interfering and saying, oh, you know, no, I can't let you do it, or you know, I'm gonna make sure at every second you're making all the right choices. He's like, you want to do this stupid thing, really? All right, on your head be it. So ultimately, we want to be attached to Krishna, and because all others are part of Krishna, then if we see them like that, that's not a difficulty. The problem is being attached to the temporary manifestation of the body, to being attached to the temporary, being attached to that which is not ultimately substantial, eternal, because that attachment will only cause pain.
Thank you.
So I have to find the right thing to be attached to. Thanks for your question.
Okay. I think that, are you okay to stay on a bit more longer,
Yeah.
Prabhu?
Yeah.
Okay, that was a sort of a segue to my controversial question, if that's okay.
Sure.
So, you're speaking about fighting against Maya, but one would argue that if Maya is Krishna's illusory energy,
Yeah.
you're fighting against Krishna. Okay, so why should you fight against Krishna in that sort of sense? So, what would you say to that?
When is Maya Maya and when is Maya not Maya? Yes. So objectively speaking, the material energy is Krishna's apara prakriti, and it has its own particular quality. Yeah. Essentially, it's inert, unconscious, you know, full of ignorance and miserable. Right? That's it. That's what it gives us. That's the experience it provides us with ultimately. So, fighting with Maya in this context specifically means fighting with the illusion, fighting with illusion. Krishna's material energy is not in and of itself illusion. That's what the Mayavadis think. mistakenly. Krishna's material energy is a factual manifestation of from Krishna, right? It's his energy. So therefore, for one who is not in Maya, there is no Maya. Everything is Krishna. Yeah, the world is the kingdom of God. So what does it mean to fight with Maya? It means to fight with illusion, which means to fight with a mistaken idea of what this world is. That's the fight. The fight is that I think I am the center and that this energy is meant for my pleasure. That's illusion. That's Maya, not this. So that illusion may be very pervasive and encroaching, like a sort of a baseline state of consciousness. Yeah, I'm the enjoyer here, and things should work according to my plan and my desire and my wish. That's Maya. And to fight that Maya every day, one needs to be reminded of the fact that, you're Krishna's servant. And therefore, because you're Krishna's servant and you exist for Krishna's satisfaction, you're going to pick up your japa mala and chant the Lord's holy name with devotion. You're going to hear about him from Srimad Bhagavatam. You're going to follow certain do's and do nots in order to reinforce the idea in your own polluted consciousness that you're not the center and that someone else is. So your fight with illusion is allowing you to perceive the reality of what you're living with. And the reality of what you're living with is that, this microphone here is Krishna's, this nose is Krishna's, this brain is Krishna's, this scarf is Krishna's, this mind is Krishna's, my wife is Krishna's, my children are Krishna's. The fact that I'm able to do anything, go anywhere, perceive anything through my senses, or accept any form of enjoyment through my senses, that is all the grace of Krishna. So when we say fight with Maya, it doesn't mean fight with Krishna's energy. It means fight with the wrong idea of what Krishna's energy is.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, if I could ask you, if that's okay, sorry, to say the final prayers and the final comments, and then we'll do our 3 Haribols. So I'll just quickly share with you the prayer, if that's okay. And then if you want to make the final comments, Prabhu Krishna.
Sure. Okay, so this is our prayer to the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees. They are oceans of kripa, oceans of mercy, and they are the saviors of the most fallen. Now for my respectful obeisances unto all these Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. If we can all kindly unmute and say our 3 Haribols. Haribo!
Haribo!
Haribol, Haribol. Thanks so much, all of you, for listening to me. This wasn't really, from my perspective, this wasn't a class that I'm delivering. It's more an opportunity for me to read Srimad Bhagavatam and to, hone in on specific sections of Srila Prabhupada's purports and how you say share those things. And although I didn't give you much of an opportunity to reflect on them with me. um, I'm very grateful that you also had some questions that allowed me to say something that hopefully was helpful and relishable, maybe, I hope. There's a lot in this is a very deep Leela, isn't it? Gajendra, right? Getting himself into trouble, being able to remember Krishna, and after such a long time of struggle, ultimately surrendering to the Lord. And of course, then in the next chapter, he offers his prayers to Krishna, and we really get to hear about why Krishna is worth taking shelter of. And it's very instructive for us, this entire pastime, because it lets us know and it reminds us that Krishna is ready and willing to come when we need him. When we need him. And, let's not wait until the tsunami hits before we actually recognize how much we need him. I think that's all I can say. And again, this is very much for myself. Promise.
Okay, thank you very much, Prabhu, and we hope to see you soon